Have you ever noticed how words have the power to shape relationships? A single phrase can build trust, deepen understanding, or, if chosen poorly, create wounds that never truly heal. We often speak without thinking, not realizing the impact our words carry. But in Stoicism, we are taught that speech should be deliberate, measured, and rooted in wisdom. A Stoic understands that what we say is within our control, while the emotions and reactions of others are not. But this doesn't mean we should speak carelessly and disregard how our words affect people. Instead, we must choose our language carefully, ensuring it serves a purpose, whether to strengthen bonds, offer clarity, or avoid unnecessary conflict. Words, once spoken, cannot be taken back. And in relationships, the wrong words can do irreversible damage. Too often, men say things to women without considering the long-term consequences. They dismiss emotions, belittle opinions, or withdraw from discussions entirely, sometimes out of frustration, sometimes out of ignorance. But a lack of awareness does not excuse the harm these words cause. If we aim to live by the principles of Stoicism, virtue, wisdom, and self-discipline, then we must take responsibility for how we communicate. In this video, we'll go over 6 phrases you should never say to a woman, not because they are offensive in the obvious sense, but because they erode trust, damage respect, and lead to unnecessary conflict. Avoiding these phrases isn't about walking on eggshells, it's about mastering the art of speech, using words that strengthen rather than weaken. Because true strength lies not in dominance or dismissal, but in understanding. Before we dive in, if you're looking to develop emotional intelligence, improve your relationships, and apply Stoic wisdom to your daily life, consider subscribing. Now, let's get into it. Phrase number 1, you're too emotional. At some point, every man has been tempted to say this phrase. Maybe it slipped out during an argument, or maybe it was said out of frustration when emotions ran high. But here's the truth, telling a woman she's too emotional doesn't make her emotions disappear. It doesn't make her calmer. It only makes her feel unheard, dismissed, and invalidated. Stoicism teaches us that emotions are a natural part of human existence. We may not always understand them, but that doesn't mean they should be disregarded. A Stoic does not fear emotions, but instead learns to navigate them with patience and wisdom. When a woman expresses her emotions, she is not being irrational, she is communicating. And if you meet that communication with dismissal, you create distance instead of connection. When you tell someone they're too emotional, what you're really saying is, your feelings make me uncomfortable, and I don't want to deal with them. That is not strength. That is avoidance. A true Stoic seeks understanding, not retreat. Instead of dismissing her emotions, listen. Ask questions. Seek to understand the root of her feelings rather than shutting them down. Think about it. If a close friend came to you with frustration, sadness, or anger, would you tell them they're overreacting? Or would you hear them out and offer support? A woman in your life deserves the same level of respect and understanding. The next time you feel tempted to say, "You're too emotional," pause. Ask yourself, what is she really trying to express? Instead of reacting defensively, respond with curiosity and patience. This not only prevents unnecessary conflict, but also deepens the relationship. In the long run, wisdom lies in understanding, not in dismissal. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more insights on Stoicism and relationships, and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever said or heard this phrase before? How did it affect the conversation? Let us know below. Now let's move on to phrase number 2. In no case should you use it if you want to keep your relationship with a woman on a good level, and it sounds like this: I don't care, do what you want. At first glance, this phrase might seem harmless. In fact, some men say it thinking they are being easygoing, giving their partner the freedom to make decisions. But the reality is, these words don't communicate indifference, they communicate a lack of investment. Stoicism does not teach us to be detached in a way that disregards others. Instead, it encourages us to be present, to be engaged in the world, and to take responsibility for our actions and relationships. Saying "I don't care, do what you want" is a passive escape from meaningful participation. It signals that you are unwilling to contribute, make decisions, or support your partner in the choices they are making. Think about this: when someone asks for your opinion, they are seeking validation, discussion, or guidance. They want to know that their thoughts and concerns matter to you. Dismissing that with a careless phrase not only makes them feel unheard, but also leaves them with the burden of making decisions alone. A Stoic man understands that engagement is key in any relationship. Avoiding responsibility does not align with virtue, nor does it lead to healthy dynamics. Instead of saying "I don't care," take a moment to express genuine thought. Even if you truly don't have a strong preference, saying something like "I trust your judgment, but if you need my input, I'm happy to help" shifts the tone entirely. It shows that you value the other person and that their decisions matter to you. The truth is, relationships require effort. Indifference is the enemy of connection. While you may think you are avoiding conflict by removing yourself from a discussion, what you are actually doing is eroding trust and emotional closeness. The next time you feel tempted to utter this phrase, pause. Ask yourself, am I avoiding engagement? Am I communicating that I value this person and our relationship? Instead of retreating into passivity, choose to be present, thoughtful, and intentional with your words. Now, let's move on to phrase number 3. You don't know what you're talking about. Few phrases shut down communication faster than this one. It might seem like a way to assert authority or end a disagreement, but in reality, it does the exact opposite. It builds resentment, damages trust, and prevents productive dialogue. The Stoics understood that wisdom is not about proving oneself right, but about seeking truth through patience and reason. When you tell someone, "You don't know what you're talking about," you aren't just rejecting their argument, you are rejecting them as a person. It is a phrase that dismisses rather than engages, isolates rather than connects. This is especially damaging in relationships, where mutual respect should always take precedence over the need to be right. Instead of assuming superiority, a Stoic listens. If you believe the other person is mistaken, it is far more productive to ask questions, clarify misunderstandings, and present your perspective without belittling theirs. Even if their argument is flawed, allowing them the dignity of being heard fosters understanding rather than conflict. No one responds well to being shut down, and a person who feels unheard today will be reluctant to share tomorrow. Think about the impact of your words. Do they invite discussion or end it? Do they encourage deeper thinking or create defensiveness? A wise man does not need to dominate a conversation to prove his knowledge. He lets his reasoning, patience, and confidence in truth speak for itself. Instead of saying, "You don't know what you're talking about," try something like, "I see it differently. Let's talk it through." This simple shift in language transforms a dismissive comment into an invitation for growth and mutual understanding. When we engage in conversations with the intent to understand rather than to win, we build stronger relationships and cultivate wisdom in ourselves. And ultimately, that is the path of a true Stoic. And now let's move on to the 4th phrase, which should never be said to women, and it sounds like this: "You look bad, old, fat, tired, etc." Words have the power to build up or tear down. And while honesty is an important virtue, Stoicism teaches us that wisdom lies in speaking only what is necessary and beneficial. Making unnecessary comments about someone's appearance does neither. It does not help them, nor does it serve any meaningful purpose. Instead, it only fosters insecurity, resentment, and emotional distance. When you tell someone they look bad, whether it's meant as a joke or an offhand remark, you are not offering constructive insight. You are simply making an observation that offers no value. The recipient of these words is left feeling self-conscious or embarrassed, even if that was not your intention. A Stoic does not speak for the sake of speaking, but chooses words that are measured, thoughtful, and considerate. Consider this: if a person is truly struggling with their appearance due to stress, exhaustion, or other circumstances, do they need it pointed out? Most likely, they are already aware. What they need is support, encouragement, or even just silence. A well-placed question like, "Is everything okay?" "You seem a bit off today," shows concern without criticism. It opens the door for conversation rather than shutting it down with judgment. Furthermore, this phrase reflects poorly on the speaker. A Stoic man is disciplined in speech and does not let careless words dictate his interactions. Speaking with kindness does not mean being dishonest, but it does mean knowing when to hold back unnecessary negativity. A person who constantly criticizes others' appearances is often projecting their own insecurities rather than making an objective observation. Instead of commenting on someone's looks in a negative way, consider whether your words will add value. Will they help the person in any way? If not, they are best left unsaid. A man who controls his tongue demonstrates strength, not weakness. In the end, silence is often the most powerful response. Now, let's move on to phrase number 5. You have to change. This phrase may seem like a straightforward request, but in reality, it is one of the most counterproductive things you can say to someone. The Stoics understood that the only person we can truly control is ourselves. Demanding that someone else change implies that they are not enough as they are, and it creates resistance rather than inspiration. True influence does not come from force, but from example. When you tell someone they have to change, you are taking the position of authority over their life, rather than an equal partner in understanding. Even if the intent is to help, the message received is one of rejection. The person hears, "You are not good enough as you are," rather than, "I see potential in you." This creates defensiveness and resentment, making them less likely to improve, not more. A Stoic knows that personal growth is a choice, not a demand. Instead of pushing change onto others, we must embody the values we hope to see. If you want someone to develop better habits, demonstrate those habits yourself. If you want them to be more patient, show patience in your interactions. Influence is most powerful when it is subtle and voluntary. Additionally, a person's perception of change is deeply personal. What you see as a flaw, they may see as a strength, or they may not be ready to confront it. A wise man understands that everyone has their own timeline for growth, and forcing the issue often backfires. Instead of saying, "You have to change," try asking, "Have you ever considered doing this differently?" Or "What do you think about trying a different approach?" This fosters conversation rather than control. At the core of Stoic philosophy is the idea that we should focus on our own development before expecting it from others. The best way to inspire change is not through demands, but through self-mastery. Be the example of what you wish to see, and others will naturally be drawn to it. And the last phrase on our list of forbidden ones is as follows: "You're just like your mother." Few phrases can ignite defensiveness and frustration faster than this one. While it may seem like an observation or even an innocent comparison, the reality is that it often carries a negative undertone. When used in an argument, it implies criticism, suggesting that the person has inherited flaws or behaviors that are undesirable. Rather than addressing an issue directly, this phrase turns the conversation into an attack on personal identity and family ties. Stoicism teaches us to communicate with intention, focusing on solutions rather than unnecessary provocations. When you compare someone to their parent, you are no longer discussing the present situation, you are drawing in years of family dynamics, unresolved emotions, and deeply rooted personal histories. Instead of being constructive, the conversation shifts into a defensive battleground where logic is abandoned in favor of emotional reactions. Imagine being told that you are just like someone else in a moment of frustration. Does it make you want to reflect and change? Or does it make you feel dismissed, defined by the past rather than acknowledged in the present? Most people feel the latter. When emotions run high, comparisons only serve to escalate tensions, not resolve them. A Stoic approach to conflict is rooted in clarity and purpose. Instead of resorting to phrases that provoke, choose words that encourage understanding. If there is a specific behavior that concerns you, address it directly rather than linking it to an outside influence. Say, "I noticed this pattern, and I want to understand it better," rather than, "You're just like your mother." This keeps the discussion focused and productive. Relationships thrive when discussions remain centered on the issue at hand rather than drifting into personal attacks. The words we choose dictate whether we build bridges or create walls. In the end, a Stoic mind knows that speaking with wisdom, rather than impulse, is the key to lasting respect and understanding. With that, we have now covered 6 phrases that should never be said to a woman. But understanding what not to say is only half the journey. In the final part, let's reflect on how to apply Stoic wisdom in everyday conversations and strengthen our relationships with meaningful communication. As we conclude, it's important to remember that communication is one of the most powerful tools we have. Every word we speak has the potential to either strengthen or weaken our relationships. The Stoics understood this well. They taught that wisdom in speech is just as important as wisdom in action. A measured response, a thoughtful pause, and an intentional choice of words can mean the difference between conflict and connection. Understanding what not to say is only part of the journey. The next step is mastering what to say instead. If Stoicism teaches us anything, it's that we should always focus on what is within our control. And our words are firmly within our control. Choosing responses that foster respect, clarity, and understanding allows us to cultivate relationships based on mutual trust rather than unnecessary conflict. But how do we apply this in daily life? The first step is mindfulness. Before speaking, ask yourself, is this helpful? Is this necessary? Will this add value to the conversation? If the answer is no, then it may be best left unsaid. A Stoic does not speak merely to fill silence, they speak with intention and purpose. Another important principle is emotional discipline. Just because we feel something in the moment does not mean we need to say it immediately. Pausing before responding gives us the space to evaluate our words and their potential impact. It also helps us avoid regret and ensures that our message is clear rather than emotionally charged. Finally, we must be willing to learn from our mistakes. None of us are perfect, and even the most disciplined among us will sometimes say the wrong thing. What matters is our ability to recognize when we've misspoken, take responsibility, and adjust our approach moving forward. Growth in communication is an ongoing process, and each interaction is an opportunity to refine our ability to connect with others in a meaningful way. By avoiding harmful phrases and choosing our words with wisdom, we can cultivate stronger, more respectful relationships. Stoicism teaches us that true strength is not found in domination or dismissal, but in understanding, patience, and self-control. The more we practice these principles, the more fulfilling our interactions become. If you found value in this video, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more insights on Stoicism and self-improvement, and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you experienced the impact of words, either positive or negative, in your relationships? Let us know below. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay disciplined and stay wise.